"We need to do something about Kahir," Asina said in a quiet tone after he spoke those words with raging possessiveness in his voice. I now understood the problem he had with my dress, which I did not see anything wrong in. The dress was shorter than I would usually wear, but it was not so short that it would make people ogle me as I passed. I'd heard about the possessive instincts of alphas. It was something that pushed them 20 a drive, that made them strive to be more powerful in order to be able to protect the things they considered theirs. Some alphas had it worse than others, but Kahir's through the words he said still rang in my head as we walked down the stairs with my hand still firmly grasped in his. "Now you see that he is a dangerous man," I said to Asina. "You see what I have been scared of all this time, while all you thought of was wearing his mark." I snapped at my wolf, my breath hitching. An alpha's possessive instinct can make him destroy himself too, after he destroyed everything around him. That is, he is an alpha, he is supposed to be possessive, but this Fendi, I didn't like the way he spoke to us. Asina sounded humble and reserved. "Kahir isn't a man to make empty threats." She said it as if I didn't know already. How could he get angry that I used my father's last name instead of his? We only mated less than 24 hours ago, and we hadn't even registered our mating yet. How could he be angry over something like this? "He threatened us," I said to Asina. "I had my reservations about mating with this man because, Mondi, we can't handle a man like this." "Asina, if things start to go bad, 40, and they will in no time, Sudi, what am I supposed to do?" There lay my biggest fear. I was no match for Kahir, despite him not being my alpha and having no control over me outside of our mate bond. When he spoke, my wolf had no choice but to comply as she recognized the power in the words of a superior wolf. I tugged my hand from Kahir's when it felt as if he was going to crush my bones, but he held on even tighter. "You are hurting me," I whimpered, pulling my hand again. His grip loosened, but he did not let my hand go. "Kahir," I called in the softest voice I could muster as we got down the stairs. "We're mated. I am not going anywhere," I reminded him. "Kahir," I called again. It felt like hours passed, but it was just a few minutes before he let go of my hand and then snaked a hand around my waist, pulling me closer to him. Right there, at the foot of the stairs in plain view of everyone passing, he lowered his lips on mine. His tongue flicked against mine once, then again urging me to open up for him. I did, slowly, conscious of the many people whose eyes I could feel piercing into my back. His tongue dove into my mouth the second I opened for him. I sucked on it with caution and felt him freeze against me. His body, taut and fraught with tension and bristling anger, began to sag against me. I could feel the tension in his body sip out as he kissed me, the kiss slow and tentative as he pushed his hand into my hair. Panting for air, I broke the kiss. His wet lips and glazed eyes made me rise to my tiptoes to press a soft kiss to his tempting red lips. A man had no business looking this good. His full lips had no reason to be this alluring. "Perseus is being a stupid dog." The tension gone from his shoulder, his voice went back to its normal state. "You can keep the dress," he said, but his eyes flashed after he said that, and he gritted his teeth. I watched him fight an internal battle, and because the mate bond made us one, I felt the conflict also making me nervous. I took his hands in mine. His eyes snapped to me and his lips parted for a split second before he relaxed. "Loretta," he barked, startling me. The head of the maids in the Alpha's castle rushed to stand beside us, her neck bared. I hadn't noticed she was in the room until I saw her rushing towards us. Alpha, with her neck bared, she wore a serious expression, but when she caught my eyes, she gave me a wink that made me blush and look away. "Show Sihana around the house. I have work to do." He let go of my hand as he gave that command. I watched him as he walked out of the room, my eyes drawn to his derriere. "Congratulations on your mating, Luna Sihana," Laura beamed at me, her eyes zeroing in on the mating mark at the side of my neck. "Tivy, thank you." I found something fascinating on my white shoes as I pressed my fingers to the mating mark. A shot of pleasure zinged through me, making me gasp out loud. Mating marks are incredibly sensitive for the first few weeks after mating. She gave me a knowing smile that had me looking away again. "Your wolf will also fight anyone that tries to touch it." "I know that," I mumbled. While I never had a mother to teach me these things, we had mandatory wolf education. I failed that class because it was the first class every Monday morning, and I was always late to school, but I still picked up some things. A mating mark was a symbol of the sacred bond between mates, and a wolf would see an outsider touching their mating mark as a disrespect to their mate. "Did you like Maribeth?" Loretta engaged me in conversation as we walked. "She smiles a lot." I remember the other girl's large smile and how uncomfortable it made me feel. It is unnerving. The girls are all trying to win your favor so they can become your personal attendant. Be warned, you will meet many more smilers until you pick a favorite from the lot. Favorite, win my favor. I had been tossed into a new world, and I was finding it hard to settle into it. There were now people who cared about my existence enough for them to try to win my favor. That used to be my place in Silver Moon Pack. The girl that tried to win the favor of others so they could look at me with something other than hatred and disgust. I was the same person who people now wanted to win over. Loretta showed me around the ground floor of the house. The place was large and grand. I didn't know how she managed to find her way around. Dressing rooms, visitors' rooms, parlors, and random rooms whose purposes had been forgotten over the years. I counted over 10 rooms on the bottom floor alone before we entered a kitchen larger than the banquet hall at Silver Moon Pack. The minute we entered, everyone went silent. The silence made me shuffle on my feet. It was the same silence that used to welcome Avalon every time she entered a room with workers, because we all knew she would pick on the first person to make a sound. Luna Sihana. I let out a sigh of relief when the uncomfortable silence broke. I did not want to be similar to Avalon in any way whatsoever. Maribeth, I returned her large smile for the first time. I told you she likes me, Maribeth shouted to the girl beside her. Luna Sihana, would you like some cookies? As she asked that, she was opening the microwave and brought out a batch of cookies. Luna Sihana, I just picked fresh fruits. A boy produced a basket of fruits. Would you like a pitcher of freshly squeezed juice? Warm milk? I took a step back as numerous people started to rush forward with different offerings for me. Enough. Laura saved me from the overwhelming experience of having people shoving things in my face. I am showing the Luna around. If she wants anything, she'll ask. Don't try this nonsense again. Her eyes blazed as she glared at the people pushing closer to me. They all shrank back with bowed heads. We are sorry, we got too excited. Apologies started to pour in, but I managed a weak smile. It is all right, I appreciate the kind gesture, but I just ate. If I want anything else, I will make sure to ask. Thank you very much. I waved, then stepped out of the kitchen, letting out a deep breath. Luna Sihana. I'd gone from bitch, monster, slut, useless omega, filthy thing, to Luna. Laura, I called out for the woman leading me to the second floor of the castle. What Tivi? How long have you known Kahir? I have known him all his life. Her tone quieted. Is there anything you want to ask? Yes, if I was to take on the daunting task of being the Luna to this kind of a man, I had to know what made him like this. Why is he like this? I asked. Laura and I abandoned the tour of the impossibly huge castle and settled on having tea and snacks in the greenhouse. It afforded us privacy as there was nothing but plants here and we could see when anyone was coming in. I can't tell you everything because it is not my place, Laura started, but I want to see Kahir happy. He has been sad for too long. You are the only chance he has at happiness, Saya. She took my hand and squeezed. This was the first time I ever felt anything close to motherly affection, and it warmed my heart. I couldn't say a woman who just met me loved me, but I didn't feel any negative energy from Laura. She was an open and kind person who made it easy for people to relax around her. You know, we were taken from our pack when Kahir was just 10 years old. Alpha Boston raided our small pack, slaughtering most of the adult men and women. He took the rest of us captive and brought us to Alpha Blood to work as his slaves, but Kahir for... She paused with a shake of her head. Her tone turned halting and subdued as she looked at a space behind me without focusing. Kahir was our alpha son. Our alpha and Luna prayed many years to have him, and when they did, we all doted on him, but he could not feel their love for long. Alpha Boston, you may have heard, used to be called the Mad Alpha. I nodded as Loretta spoke. Alpha Boston had been called the Mad Alpha because of his love for destroying things. He was the second son of the Alpha, so his brother was set to take over from their father until he fell into a lake and drowned. I'd heard people talk about Boston's inferiority complex, which made him target others to make himself seem bigger and better. Boston took Kahir, the little boy. Loretta sounded choked. She dabbed a handkerchief on her reddened eyes, continuing to shake her head. He locked him in the dungeons for 8 years. My blood ran cold at that. And for all this time, he did cruel things to Kahir. He broke him. I knew that Kahir had been taken from his pack and imprisoned in Alpha Blood Pack, but I did not know for how long. The finer details were lost to the public study. None of us knew how young he had been taken or how long he spent in captivity. He managed to escape, and the rest, Saidi, everyone knows the rest, Loretta sighed. Kahir escaped when he got his wolf at 18, and at 20, he led the rest of his decimated pack on an attack against Alpha Boston. The battle took 2 years, and he came out the victor after he massacred everyone at the top. Kahir is a good man, Loretta started. No matter what the world says about him, he is a good man. He took over Alpha Blood, and he has bettered the pack. He had the capacity to lay waste to Alpha Blood, but he thought of the children of his enemies, children that may rise up one day to avenge their fathers. He thought of the innocent members who had nothing to do with Alpha Boston and chose to take on the responsibility of these people. He is a true Alpha, and no one can convince me otherwise. The way she crossed her arms and set her lips in a thin line, it was clear that she would not be convinced otherwise. I always thought that Kahir took over Alpha Blood Pack because he could gain more from ruling them than he would from destroying them. The wealth in Alpha Blood belonged to him the minute he bested the pack's Alpha. It would be unwise to throw that wealth away by slaughtering the people. I never thought he would choose to rule over his enemies because he pitied the children or the innocent ones in the pack. But he is so cold, I whispered, hugging myself as I remembered how callously he bargained my life for barrels of oil and drums of wolf's bane. Kahir is a broken man, of course he would be cold, Laura scolded. But he is your mate. If there is anyone who can thaw the ice in his heart, it is you. She smiled at me, but I could not return her smile. I am not sure I can do that. I was not sure I wanted to do it. The last thing I wanted was a difficult mate, Tuvi. The last thing I deserved was a man who did not know how to treat others with warmth and kindness. I'd had enough of people being cold to me. I spent all my life trying to get them to warm up to me, and now I had to do the same thing with my mate. Didn't I deserve a break? Luna Sihana, you are the only one who can heal the wounds he hides from even himself. Loretta sounded like someone had died. Her mournful tone made the air around us more subdued, and the Omega in me responded to her grief. What about my wounds? Who will heal them? I asked. He can heal your wounds too. That is what mating is about, Luna. For the first few months, it may feel like it is all about the tussle and the sheets, but mating is for life. You both must work together to make each other better. Did she think Kahir could help me heal in any way? He was the same as the people who had broken me. What could he do to help me heal if he treated me like the people who had wounded me in the first place? I didn't know what to tell Laura. She looked at me with hope in her eyes, and the part of me that was a people pleaser wanted to tell her that I would try, but I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to try. I don't want to, I admitted. I waited for the backlash, for her to berate me and call me names for saying something like that, but she only smiled at me. It is a scary prospect, and Kahir is not an easy man. I understand if you are scared. Not only was I terrified of my mate, but I was also terrified that I would fail that I would go back to being a people pleaser for Kahir who would never be pleased with me. What if I do? What if I fail? What if he is going to be like this forever? He has already hurt me in a way I don't want to be hurt again, I muttered. Did she know what her beloved Kahir did to me? Did she know how he traded me for oil and then changed his mind? It was scary knowing he could do and undo without batting a lash. He can't be like this forever. You are destined to be together. The goddess is not a fool. She mated you to each other because she knows you will be good for each other, Laura advised. How would she explain Cade? Did the goddess think we would be perfect for each other when she made us mates? I still believed in the goddess, but I no longer saw her as infallible. She'd made a mistake pairing me with Cade, so how should I know it wasn't a mistake that I was now paired with Kahir? Loving a man like Kahir may not be easy, but I don't want you to see it as impossible. I have known the man all his life, so I can tell you that your presence in his life, even before he sent for you, has changed him. It is almost unnoticed, but as I said, I know him. You both can heal each other. It is not impossible. With those words ringing in my ears, we exited the greenhouse. It was almost time for dinner, so she advised I went upstairs to rest. I complied, going up to Kahir's room and flopping into his ginormous bed. Can I love a man like Kahir Armani? Where the fuck are you, Sihana? A voice boomed in my head, making me jump upright with a wince. Sihana. It was Cade's voice. I was too far away from Silver Moon Pack for Cade to reach me through an Alpha's mind link. So how come Saidi? Sihana, come on, we are all out searching for you. Where are you, babe? I am coming for you. I didn't have the mental fortitude to close a mind link with my Alpha, but after bonding with Kahir, I had tapped into his strength. With much trial and heaving, I managed to slam the mind link shut, but it opened back in less than 5 minutes. Sihana Asina Montreal, you better tell me where you are. This time, I heard the Alpha's wolf in his words. Fuck you, Cade Flint, I said out loud right as Kahir entered the room. He must be desperate to reach you, he laughed. We will be having your Luna ceremony by Friday. Get ready. Kahir. Man, I am almost jealous of you. Aristo flopped into a seat after walking into my office without knocking. Congratulations, my man. There was something going on with Aristo, find something I could not place a finger on. You don't barge into my office, Aristo. My tone was level when I spoke, but that blatant disrespect irked my wolf. The next time you do that, you may end up crippled. Oh, Swords, his cheeks reddened. I am sorry, Alpha. He bared his neck and my wolf was placated. What is the update on Silver Moon? I fingered the collar of my shirt as I spoke. They haven't said anything. It may be too early for them to make the connection, my beta replied, going into business mode. The Alpha put up flyers and they are seriously searching for her, but he doesn't know she is here yet. He will know soon. I leaned back in my seat, calculating the fastest moves that would deliver Silver Moon into my hands. You want them to know? Aristo sounded surprised. We just started the process to place our first order from them. Don't you think it would affect the process? He asked. They might not uphold their end if they find out you took her. A blood contract is binding, you know that. Even if they don't want to, they will surely be compelled to honor the contract. I almost smiled as I thought of Cade and his fellow leaders. The man was a smart man, but he did not have enough sense to realize oil and Wolf's Bane was not enough to stop me from having Sia. Perseus purred at the reminder of last night. I never thought an inexperienced woman would make me unravel the way that woman did. Her shy touches ignited me, spreading a fire that only she could quench through my being. Alpha Cade thought I would look at a woman like Sia and let him have her. The blood contract we signed would not bind me because in all technicalities, Sebastian, my guard, was the one to sign the contract. His blood was already on the knife I pretended to use to slit my thumb for the contract. Also, the contract only said in exchange for the trade deal with Silver Moon, I would leave the healer with Silver Moon. I left the healer with them. It just happened that she was delivered to my doorstep. On Friday, we will hold her Luna ceremony. She will be officially introduced to the pack as their Luna. I want as many reporters as possible to cover the event. After that, Silver Moon would come raging for a fight. I cracked my knuckles in anticipation. Is that 2D wise? Aristo fidgeted. Isn't it better to keep her hidden for a while? He asked. Is she a criminal? I demanded. Why does she need to be hidden? The minute the world knew I had a mate, they would target her. I didn't take alpha blood by playing nice and befriending other alphas. When I was named the alpha of this pack, many alphas started to withdraw their alliances with alpha blood to show their solidarity with Alpha Boston, who was already cold in the ground. Why are you laughing? Aristo asked when a harsh sound escaped my lips. Remembering, I answered, not paying him any attention. Those packs had fallen from their places of grace, and one by one, they came back to beg me to cooperate with them. Alpha blood was the pillar of more than 12 packs, and the alphas of those packs hated me for humiliating them. They expected Alpha Blood Pack to crumble after they withdrew their support. They wanted me to fail so they could point fingers and laugh at me. The plan was to put me at their feet, to be at their mercy, but I did not take over Alpha Blood to ruin it. I took over to make it mine, and everything that belonged to me had to flourish. These alphas who saw me as their enemy when I had not even touched their packs would seize any opportunity to bring me down. A mate was a very obvious weakness that they would not fail to target. This was one of the many reasons I did not want a mate. I didn't want a weakness any man could exploit. A weakness so strong it could be used to bring me to my knees in one swift move. That and the fact that I did not know what to do with a mate. If we do this, there will be no going back, Aristo warned me. It surprised me that my beta would caution me about acting recklessly. He advocated for fuck it, fuck this, let's fuck things up, which was his motto in life. This will put her in danger, he reminded me. Anyone associated with me is in danger. You know what I mean. He scrubbed his palms down his face. This is a risky thing to do, and she is a healer too, so shook his head. Do you think you are more concerned about my mate than I am? I didn't understand the anger that took over me, but I squeezed my fists to keep from lashing out. There it was again, 40. Another reason I didn't want a mate, the power she held over me. After I escaped the dungeons where Alpha Boston kept me to torture me for his sick pleasure, I came out with a temper. I destroyed everything in my path. Anyone that looked at me the wrong way felt a taste of my wrath. It got to a point where I thought I was destroying myself, and it was at that point I turned my anger on the man who made me like this. I refused to succumb to the bloodlust. I didn't want to become the man I used to be, Sudi, the boy I used to be, someone who could not control himself. When Sihana was involved in anything, I felt the grip I had on the reins of my demon slip. The slip-ups were getting too much. She wields too much power over me, and a man is only powerful when he can control his emotions. She threatened my power. No, I don't think I care about her more than you do, but Ferdy shook his head again. His worried expression irritated me to the point a growl slipped from deep within my chest. Have you read the report your friend sent? I asked him, but he blanched. From that expression, I knew he had not. You haven't, but I'll give you a rundown. There were people after them, sooty people that are not from Silver Moon Pack. His brows furrowed and he bit the side of his lips. Kamal and his gang are notorious. There must be people who want to see them destroyed, Aristo said. Are you missing my point on purpose? He was not. They were not from rival gangs, they were following her. His lips rounded, as did his eyes. Have you seen Lawrence today? I asked him and his eyes widened further. You know who Lawrence works for. Lawrence was a spy who came into my pack 3 years ago. He reported everything he saw to Alpha Alexander, and today he had gone to report to duty, himself, and the man he served thought me too stupid to notice a spy in my house. But they did not know I let him be because he would come in handy, soon fighty handier than he was now. They know she is your mate, but if more people know, they'll start digging in Silver Moon. Feeling betrayed will sell her out, Aristo cautioned. These were good points, but they were points I already factored in. No matter how much I hid Sihana, the world would know of her. She was a light sooty, a beacon on a hill that could not be hidden. Do you believe no one knows she is a healer yet? I asked Aristo, who shook his head. The man I left behind in Silver Moon told me they had started to use her as a healer less than 48 hours later, so it was not a secret that could be hidden anymore. The fact that she was my mate and a healer put a double target on her back, but I was capable of protecting her. People know, but more people would know Sivan. Aristo, shut up. For once he shut up. In a few months, whether I announce her as my Luna or not, people would know who she is. Do you want me to wait to hide her and wait till then? It may be wise. It would be stupid. On Friday, I will announce to the world that she is my Luna. Then we can wait for any fool that thinks he can harm her right under my nose. The faster they know of her, the faster they will come, and the faster I can deal with them to live a peaceful life with my mate. Let them come. I would be waiting. You have made up your mind, Aristo sighed. Yes, I'd been calculating from the minute I perceived her scent. Her relationship with me could prove deadly to her. Men who wanted to see my downfall would want to use her, so whether I hid her or not, they would know of her. I knew that at least 3 alphas knew of her, and at least one of them knew she was a healer. She was already in danger. Hiding her would only give the impression I was afraid. Fear and Kahir Armani did not belong in the same sentence. The world will know she is my Luna, and Silver Moon will be the first to retaliate. They may even find a way to terminate a blood contract. But unfortunately for them, I have my mind set on their ruination. They would all pay for touching Sihana, Asina, and done. I looked at myself in the full-length mirror in front of me. The makeup artist waited for my reaction, but all I could manage was a blank expression as I stared at her work in the mirror. My Luna ceremony had come. Kahir didn't even give me the time to settle in or to wrap my head around all the many things happening in my life at this point. He just sprung the news on me and I couldn't refuse. I sighed out loud and it may have spooked the makeup artist. Do you not like it? The lady asked. I caught a fleeting look of nervousness on her apprentice's face in the mirror. The younger girl stood behind me with her teeth worrying her bottom lip. It is all right, I answered the makeup artist. The truth was that I could not focus on the person looking back at me in the mirror. Though my eyes were on the mirror before me, my mind was in a faraway place. If you don't like it, we can modify it to your taste. I could tell she was nervous as she twiddled one of her many makeup brushes. Is it too loud? Her apprentice asked, but I shook my head. It took a great deal of effort for me to pull myself to the present to inspect the work that had been done on my face. Oh, I blinked to make sure the person staring at me was indeed me. I know words came from my mouth after that. I couldn't say anything past that as I looked at my dolled-up face in the mirror. Had I ever looked this good? Did I ever dream of looking this good? The makeup artist and her apprentice had done a marvelous job in accentuating my best features. My eyes popped, and for the first time, I noticed how beautiful they were. She highlighted my cheekbones, and my lips, which I always considered dry, looked luscious. The makeup was also calm, with neutral colors. Save for the pink lip gloss, all the colors she used were light and calm, but she still managed to capture a beauty I never knew I had. I never knew makeup would transform me like this. I touched my cheek, careful not to ruin the hour that had gone into making me up. Transformed? The apprentice looked alarmed as she exclaimed. I only highlighted your features with the lightest of makeup. The artist replied to me with a tight smile. I felt it wouldn't be good for people to meet you for the first time with too much makeup. Do you think it is too much? No, it is not. I touched my face again. The art of makeup was lost on me as I invested my time in serving the wolves of Silver Moon rather than on my appearance. However, even I could see how light the makeup was. I'd seen how the girls in Silver Moon wore makeup, and this wasn't anything close to theirs. I love it. With those words came a breath of relief that launched the two women into long talks in adoration for me and my perfect features. Everyone will love you, the apprentice assured me. My mind drifted again after that. No matter how much I tried to calm my heart, how much I tried to stop my legs from bounding on the ground, I could not stop my nervousness. Anxiety made me hot one minute and cold the next. And when the artist apprentice assured me that the people would love me, I swallowed down bile. What if they didn't? I swallowed hard, wishing to be over and done with all this. If the people didn't like me, what would I do? I didn't want to be condemned to be hated, even in this pack where I would be spending the rest of my life. A Luna ceremony, as an Omega, especially one hated like me, I was never allowed to attend any of the hundreds of leadership trainings Silver Moon Pack organized. Leadership had never been a part of my future, but now Kahir had thrust me into the limelight without preamble. How the hell was I supposed to lead a pack as their Luna? What if the people of Alpha Blood Pack hated me? I shivered, wrapping my hands around my shoulders as I swallowed for the nth time, unable to stomach the thought. The ceremony starts in an hour, so we will leave now. The girls will bring in your dress and shoes. Congratulations. The makeup artist and her apprentice had finished gathering up their products, so they bowed themselves out, exiting the room with friendly smiles. The urge to bury my face into a pillow and shout kicked me hard, but I couldn't ruin the work the women had put in, so I held myself. I didn't have to wait for long for my dress, as it came in less than 5 minutes. 30 minutes later, I was dressed in a salt white dress that flared from the waist and stopped above my knees with white flats. The women that dressed me cooed and cheered at how pretty I looked, but I couldn't see anymore, half blinded by nervousness. 5 minutes before the event started, I heard a knock on the door. Kahir entered after that, dressed in a white shirt and dark slacks. They looked like his everyday work clothes, but Asina ate up the sight of his muscles bulging in his shirt. My hands smoothed down my dress of their own accord as I stood to face him. The expression on his face made me nervous. His jaw ticked, and he clenched his fist at his side, a look that I interpreted as anger. I examined my dress to ensure it wasn't provocative. It wasn't. The dress was a simple satin and lace dress, so why did he look like he wanted to rip it to shreds? I want to take that dress off you, he said in a quiet voice, walking towards me with purposeful strides. I shrank back, fearing for my clothes. Why? There is nothing wrong with it. I looked down at the dress again while I quivered from his presence, sucking the air from the room. I want to see what is underneath. His tone did things to my body which I could not explain. I want to see you naked, Sihana. But the ceremony is starting soon, and 40 and Subi, and 40, I looked away with a face that blazed red. I must look like a ripened tomato now. The ceremony Thivin, he said in a quiet voice, then he huffed, walking around me to pull open a heavy drawer. Taking something out, he walked back towards me with sparkling jewelry in his hands. You will wear these. His tone left no room for argument, although I would not have argued. The jewelry looked beautiful and expensive, something no girl would turn down without good reason. He put the neck piece around my neck and tried to put the hops around my ear, but then he found out I had no piercing. I never got them pierced, I answered. For some reason, I felt shame in my guts. I see. Whatever he saw made his mood drop. He took my hand and we exited the room with him, still in a weird mood. The ceremony is at the pack house, he said to me as we got into a sleek black car. I nodded in response to stop my jaw from dropping at the sight of the car. We got to the pack house in less than 10 minutes, and the building standing before me made my jaw drop. Wow. I gasped at the magnificence of the place. How rich were these people to be able to afford a pack house of this size? I had to tilt my neck to see the top of the house, and it wasn't just one or two like most packs. The pack house should be called the pack houses because there were 5 high rises of the same layout that stood next to each other in a semicircle. Welcome, Luna Sihana, Alpha Kahir. The crowd I didn't notice out front cheered. I'd been too preoccupied with the lavishness of the pack dwellings that I missed the people rushing out of the many doors of the houses. Then I saw them, cameras. I took an involuntary step closer to Kahir, and he put his hand around my waist, tucking me into his side. The gesture calmed me a bit, but my heart still pounded in my ears. People poured out of the pack houses, and they came with phones, taking pictures of me, But they were the least of my worries. What worried me were the men and women with cameras. There were reporters rushing toward us, and I felt myself sway on my feet. With the speed at which they rushed towards us, I thought they might run into us, but they stopped a foot away and shoved microphones toward our direction. Alpha Kalir, after 27 years, how did you find your mate? One woman shouted in our faces. Miss Sihana, who are you? Another asked. Alpha Kahir, Miss Sihana, where did you meet? What is your story? The bombardment of questions made me stick closer to Kahir because I feared I may be overwhelmed to the point of fainting, which was not something I needed to happen to me on such an important day. Why were there reporters here? Luna ceremonies were common and not as prestigious as alpha ceremonies, which were planned for months on end. Very few alphas had reporters covering their succession, and most of the time, the reporters were from local news houses. So why were there international reporters at a Luna ceremony? I spotted a reporter from the Wolves Channel and Werewolves Broadcasting Network, which were two of the biggest international news houses on the planet. How did these people know of something as mundane as a Luna ceremony, and why, for the goddess' sake, had they come? Alpha Kahir, why did you decide to show your face to the world today after 5 years of hiding? The reporter from the Werewolves Broadcasting Network asked, and everything clicked in my head. Even when Kahir became the alpha of this pack, there was no international coverage of his succession ceremony, despite it being one of the most talked about events that year. So why were there people shoving microphones in my face for my Luna ceremony? Its answer was simple. He called them. My chest tightened as I connected the dots. Why would he do something like this to me? Was he setting me up to be humiliated on a wider scale than I had been before? What would he gain from something like this? The fact that he suddenly announced a Luna ceremony was suspicious in the first place. It was less than a week since we made it, and I had not even settled into the pack. I didn't even know who planned the ceremony, which I should have planned myself. He sprung the news of a Luna ceremony on me, and he brought all these reporters who watched me like hawks. I would be in the news tomorrow, or maybe even this night. What would they say about me? What did Kahir tell them to write about me? Why was he doing this to me? Even if he had no ill intentions, which I doubted, even if he did not call on all these people to watch me make a fool of myself, there was no way he did not know that I wouldn't want them here. How could he not have figured out that I didn't like people watching me? If he could not ask me whether I wanted the event to be covered, the least he could do was tell me there would be reporters, so I prepared beforehand. This man, Sui, this same man was the person Laura wanted me to love. Laura expected me to care for a man who did not care for me. How could he help me heal when he was the one breaking me the more? I became lightheaded and swayed on my feet yet again. Step back, Kahir growled at the reporters inching forward with their microphones. The reporters complied without pause. I invited everyone to witness my mate's Luna ceremony because I felt generous. He answered one of the reporters, then continued. My mate is Sihana Armani, originally from the Silver Moon Pack, but today she officially joins Alpha Blood as her Luna. This was another thing I was scared of, to become the Luna of this pack. I had to be a member of the pack, but I was still tied to Silver Moon. If I stayed away from Silver Moon Pack as a solitary wolf for up to a year, my bond with the pack would naturally break due to distance and lack of emotional connection. But now, Kahir would have to forcefully break my bond with Silver Moon through this ceremony. And it would hurt. How did you both meet? Was it love at first sight? More questions started up again, but he raised his hand to silence them. Sihana will answer your questions after the ceremony if she is in the mood to. With his hand around me, he marched forward, and the sea of reporters divided for us to pass through. The members of the pack, who had all rushed out when they heard we had arrived, chanted our names with big smiles on their faces as we entered the central pack house. The walls were decorated with welcome messages with balloons and ribbons, decorating the ceiling as we walked into the pack house. It is the man and woman of the hour. Aristo walked towards us with two blonde women hanging off his arms. Congratulations on your mating, Sia. He beamed at me, untangling himself from the women clinging to him. Thank you, Aristo. I was happy to see a familiar face in the mass of unfamiliar ones staring at me. You look stunning today, even more than usual. Heat spread through my skin as he winked at me, eliciting a growl from Kahir. Aristo, eyes off my mate, Kahir said, his tone quiet. I can't help it when your mate is this sexy fody. The beta ran off when Kahir took a step forward, as if to charge at him. That bastard Tevin, he growled, tucking me closer to his side as we continued forward. I should wring his neck. Kahir, I called in a small voice, careful of aggravating his anger at this point. But the question burning inside me wanted to be let out. Why are you doing this to me? I asked when he gave me half of his attention. What have I done this time? His tone rang with incredulity, despite his blank expression. Why did you spring a Luna ceremony on me from nowhere? Why did you ask all these reporters to come? The final question caught in my throat footy. Why do you like to humiliate me? A Luna ceremony is required for every Luna. You must show yourself to the people you are to rule over for, as long as I am Alpha, he said in a slow voice, purposely misinterpreting my question. The pack needs to know your face, and you know they have wanted to since they heard of you. It doesn't explain the reporters swarming me, I countered. You are the Luna of Alpha Blood Pack. The world is curious about you. His tone rang with finality that told me he didn't want to continue the conversation, but I pressed on for one last question. Why didn't you tell me, Friday? You knew I would not be comfortable with it, but you still set me up. It was the same thing he did in Cade's office all those days ago. What game was he playing and what was his reason? There are things you must get used to from now on. He shut me up with those words right as we reached the banquet hall. My heart bled from his nonchalance. He didn't seem to care that he was hurting me. He was hurting me on purpose. He led me to the platform and we took our seats, while the people who first rushed out swarmed in after us, taking their seats in the hall. Members of Alpha Blood Pack, it is I, your beta. Aristo took the microphone and started in a goofy voice. People chuckled as he struck a weird pose. You all know why we are here, right? A resounding yes from the crowd almost made my ears bleed. Our queen is here. Can I get a yes, queen? From everyone excited. Goddess, this boy needs to grow up. Kahir massaged his forehead as his beta continued to rev up the crowd, making them yell and shout and cheer. All right, now let's hear a word from our beloved Alpha, who will introduce his mate to us. Astro gestured at Kahir, and the people again went wild with clapping and hooting as Kahir stood, but the room went dead silent as soon as he cleared his throat. Sahana, come up here, he said in the quiet room. I did as I was told, walking towards him on shaky legs. He put a hand around my waist when I stood next to him with my head bowed. I lifted my head for a brief second, but I saw everyone gawking at me. It made me feel 30. I hated the spotlight, as every time I found myself in the spotlight, it was often because something had gone wrong. This is Sihana Armani, my mate, and your Luna. You will accord her the same respect as me if you value your lives. I blanched at the threat and the room went so quiet, a pin dropping would have been too loud. Someone in the crowd gave a weak clap, then another joined, then another, and in a minute cheers and claps rent the air. Do you have anything to say to them? Kahir asked me. I wanted to shake my head and run away, but I knew that would be the wrong move, so I nodded. It is an honor to be amongst you all here today. I started in a quiet tone to hide the shiver in my voice. Thank you for the warmth with which you have received me. I hope we all get along well. I bowed my head as I finished and applauses resounded in the air. We went back to our seats as Aristo took the stage again. And now for the initiation. My heart fell at that exclamation. Cade, Davo. The day Sia leaves Silver Moon. Guilt weighed on me as I returned from the hospital, where the doctor told me there was nothing wrong with Sia. As a healer, her body could repair itself once she rested after doing so much work in the pack hospital today. I hadn't wanted to force her to work at the hospital, but I knew this was a sure way for people to appreciate her in the pack. She'd been trying to win everyone's approval before, but with time. I saw her give up. It was not a secret that she wanted to be loved. With how readily she did whatever was asked of her, no matter how degrading, but over the last year she had started to withdraw from the pack. It was how I knew she had given up on Silver Moon. My phone rang then, and I picked it up from the nightstand. Alpha, there are vandals destroying things in the pack. One of my warriors shouted into the phone once I picked up. God damn it. I grabbed my keys from the desk beside my bed and dashed out of my room. These vandals must be looking for a quick death for them to try to destroy the properties in my pack. I was directing my warriors on how best to approach the situation when the attacking hoodlums started to retreat. They shouted, waving twigs and machetes in the air as they held their trousers and ran off, jumping into the vehicles they came in. That is right, run, you fools. A girl who had been trying to enter the pack house shouted at the retreating men. Those around who had been trying to find a place to hide a minute ago turned to see the men fleeing. They abandoned their quest to hide and started to insult the men, jeering at them. Something is wrong, Flint said, but I didn't need him to tell me. Why the hell are they retreating all of a sudden? Vandals like these had increased in the werewolf community over the years as more and more wolves left their pack. There was no clear-cut manner to deal with them since they were not rogues, so we could not just murder them in cold blood. They were like wolves bonded together to form criminal gangs. They would not just attack and leave without carting away something expensive or robbing enough people while pretending to fight. Alpha Cade, the Vandals are retreating. My beta came to stand beside me and I almost growled in his face. I can see them, Beta Marcus. Beta Marcus was due for retirement, and he got on my nerves with his no, it all attitude. But until I found someone suitable to be my beta, I would have to make do with him. Investigate this matter. I want to know what prompted this attack and what they must have taken from us. I turned and walked back into the pack house. The wing of the house which they set on fire was far from mine, and the fire had already been put out. I was going to sleep off this crazy day. Sia, Flint whispered. I can't feel Sia, he growled. Cade, they may have taken her. Fuck. How did I not realize that sooner? I called all the head warriors and trackers and instructed them to find Sihana. None understood why I was so concerned about finding her until I growled at them. She is my mate. Find her before anything happens to her if you want to keep your heads. I growled at the bastards gawking at me. I shifted as the warriors left, allowing Flint to tear through to search the packlands. It was already 3 in the morning, a full hour after the Vandals retreated. Why did they take her? What could they possibly want from her? I mused as Flint covered the distance in a shorter time than usual. You bastard, she is a healer, he growled at me. Do you know how rare healers are? Another pack must have taken her, he screamed, racing at full speed. We had no destination in mind, but my wolf would not rest until we found a lead. Please be safe, Sihana, I mumbled. Gods protect her. If anything happened to her, I may not survive. You should have hidden her, Cade. Why would you make her work for the public, exposing her like that? Flint growled. I was only trying to help her, I shouted back at my wolf. This is the only way she can earn the respect of the pack, and I know how much she wants them to accept her. Flint ran for hours, almost till midday, but we did not catch so much as a faint scent of her. It was as if she vanished off the face of the earth. Son, you can't continue to do this. My father barged into my room as I got out of the shower, after running non-stop throughout the day. I'd like to see you try to stop him, I growled at my father, infusing some of my alpha's command in my tone. Get out of my way. I pushed past him, but he grabbed my shoulder. You are worrying the pack running around all day like this. Please, calm down and let the experts find her. We have the best trackers, Sylvan. Alpha Warren, I called my father by his name with anger blazing in my guts. Do not put your hands on me ever again. Caden Warren, he growled. How dare you talk to your father like that? Father, I shouted back at him. You are the reason I waited so long to be with Sihana. You are the reason my mate is not my mate, I shouted at him. Do you know what she told me 2 nights ago? I screamed, my face going red and Flint pushing to the forefront. My emotions were stung high at this point, and he was making it worse by treating me like a little boy. Had he forgotten that I was the alpha already? My word was law in this pack, not his. Caden, watch your tone with me. I wasn't there when you rejected Sihana, so how is it my fault? He too shouted, his eyes flashing the red of his wolf for a split second. You did not have to tell me to reject her, I shouted again. Who was it that told me never to mate with an Omega? I demanded from him. You are the one who always said I was not allowed to taint the bloodline. You are the one that always berated my mother for being a beta and not an alpha like your mother. My father was obsessed with keeping the family full of alphas. He would always berate my mother for being a beta and giving him a beta daughter, telling her to thank her stars that I did not come out a beta. He always reminded me that I could not mate with anyone but an alpha. He even introduced me to Avalon. You can't shift the blame, Cade, he shouted. Yes, I educated you as a father should educate his son, and I am not sorry for that. I would never support you mating with an Omega who can give you Omega children, and I am not sorry. Who will become the alpha after you if you end up with an Omega son? It is my duty as the alpha of this pack to ensure we always have a leader ready to take over. He had become red in the face, but his words served no purpose other than to enrage me further. I wanted to hit something just from looking at his face, his unapologetic face. It is a good thing I am the alpha of this pack, not you, I said to his face. You are nothing but a washed-up alpha. Protecting this pack is my duty now. I will find Sihana, and I will mate with her while you wither inside as a prejudiced old man. I stormed out of the room, my shoulder hitting his as I went. I saw my mother and sister huddled outside the doors, looking pale and anxious. When had my mother even returned from her tour with one of her many boyfriends? A sharp pain stung my chest as I was about to walk past them. I doubled over, clutching my chest. What the hell? Flint, what is happening? I asked my wolf, who was howling in pain, bearing the brunt of the sharp sting piercing into us. Someone twinned someone, is having sex with our mate. Those were the last words I heard before I blacked out. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was the severance of the thread that linked my wolf with Sihana. I opened a mind link with her, but she slammed it shut. I opened another one, but she cursed me out and closed it again. We need to go to Alpha Blood, Flint urged me. Could Alpha Kahir? I did not want to believe it, but after searching for her for another day, I booked a flight to Alpha Blood. The earliest flight was in 2 days, and as I booked, it seemed a lot of people were booking also, as the site kept lagging. Seats were vanishing every time I refreshed the page. Then I found out that they were hosting a Luna ceremony, and they had invited the general public. Could that bastard defy? I went all the way to Alpha Blood Pack to see it with my own eyes, and when I got there, they were about to start her initiation. The initiation that would break her bond to Silver Moon. What the hell is this? My eyes jerked up as I heard that familiar voice. Alpha Cade, you did not tell us you would be attending. Aristo was still with the microphone, so he shouted into it. He had his back to me, so I couldn't see his expression, but I heard the amusement in his tone. Were you expecting him? I asked Kahir in a whisper, as Cade glared at us. Cade stood at the door with people staring at me, but he did not notice them. His eyes were fixated on Kahir and I with pupils that glowed red. No, Kahir answered me, humor in his tone also. Then in a loud voice he asked, "What are you doing on my land, Cade Warren?" "What am I doing on your land?" Cade shouted back. "What are you doing with my mate?" Heads whipped from Kahir to Cade as he walked into the room. Someone in the crowd gasped and another pointed a hand at Cade. "Careful, I can slit your throat right here and now." Kahir sounded cheerful. I too looked between him and Cade as the air around us charged with tension. "You lying, deceiving bastard," Cade screamed, his face going red. I noticed then that the black shirt he wore hung on him. His face looked sunken with eye bags around the eyes he used in glaring at my mate. "What does this bastard want now?" Asina asked, fidgeting. "Why is he ruining our ceremony?" "Careful." All traces of humor fled from Kahir's tone as he linked our fingers on my thigh. Cade's eyes zeroed in on our hands and he growled. "You bastard," he charged at the platform, breaking into a run, but warriors caught him before he moved 2 steps. "Let me go, you idiots. Let this thief fight me alpha to alpha," Cade shouted at the men holding him, a vein pulsing at the side of his neck. "It is insulting to compare yourself to me, Alpha Cade." I felt Kahir's anger even before I heard his prickly quiet tone. He squeezed my hand, so I put my other hand atop his. It was inaudible, but I heard him sigh. "How dare you deceive me? What was the point of signing a contract when you would go back on it?" Cade shouted. "Who is this man disrupting the Luna ceremony?" Someone in the crowd shouted, breaking the spell of silence on the audience. People started to shout and complain, pointing fingers and insulting Cade, who was being restrained by 2 burly warriors. "Warriors, show him to a nice, warm room. We will talk when the ceremony is over." Kahir instructed the men restraining Cade, who started to shout. "Unhand me. Do you know who I am? I am Cade Warren, the Alpha of Silver Moon Pack. Get your filthy hands off me." The warriors of Alpha Blood Pack must have been built different because just 2 of them were able to retrain a seeding alpha of a powerful pack. "Continue," Kahir said to Aristo after Cade had been dragged away. I thought of Cade's display inside. Did he not see that the place was swarming with reporters? He should never have come here. He just disgraced himself and his pack with that little show he put on, giving the reporters a nice juicy story to write. But that was none of my business. My initiation into Alpha Blood was about to begin. What happened to Silver Moon would no longer affect me after this. They brought the earthen bowl to Kahir and I while we stood. Kahir pulled a blade from nowhere, and he instructed me to cut my right thumb. My blood spilt into the bowl while Kahir held it. The women instructed me on what to say. I, Sihana Asina Armani, pledge myself to the Alpha Blood Pack, to rule beside Alpha Kahir Perseus Armani over the wolves of Alpha Blood Pack. I pledge myself to this land and all that dwell in it, to foster and nurture, to guide with love and stand as a pillar to my mate for as long as we live. My ties to anything and anyone outside of Alpha Blood cease to exist from now till eternity. This pledge I make before the goddess, my mate, and my people. My teeth gnashed, and I fought down tears as I made the pledge. The blood flowing from my thumb did not stop. With every sentence, I felt something rip inside me, something tearing me open. I had to force myself to continue with the words, because the stabs and tears inside me that came from saying the words were unbearable. Stopping was not an option, so I soldiered on. I, Alpha Kahir Perseus Armani, accept your oath. I gasped at the final severance of my bond with Silver Moonpack. Kahir caught me by my waist as I doubled over, sweat pouring down my face as 1,000 hands pulled my insides from 1,000 directions. The experience of shifting for the first time was tame and enjoyable in comparison with what I felt from the initiation. Welcome to Alpha Blood Pack, Luna Sihana. My wolf opened a link with the pack and 100 different voices shouted into my head, congratulating me and praising me. I don't feel good. I ignored the voices in my head, not having the strength to silence them. Leaning my head against Kahir's bicep, I allowed my weight to sag against him as the women went with the bowl with my blood in it. He led me back to our seat, pulling me into his lap this time. Aristo took the stage again and started to rev up the crowd. Their chants and cheers became too much for me. They almost split my eardrum with the noise. Let us eat and drink to celebrate the new Luna, Aristo shouted and people cheered again. I could do without the noise. As if hearing my thought, Kahir stood and climbed down from the platform with his arms around my waist, exiting the banquet hall. In his arms, I gathered the strength to shut the mind link I opened with his pack as he led me away. Alpha Kahir Luna Sihana, why are you exiting the ceremony so early? Who was that man who caused a ruckus in there? Luna Sihana, what would you like to say to the people cheering you on? The reporters outside the pack house who were interviewing other pack members rushed to us as Kahir came out. We walked past them and got into the sleek black car that brought us and zoomed off from the pack dwelling. I could not be happier or more relieved to be in a quiet place. You did good, Kahir purred into my ear as he half-hugged me in the car. My wolf purred and preened, and I felt myself blush. Thank you. I snuggled up into his side, allowing Asina to feel her mate's warmth, something she had been disturbing me for all day long. Kahir kissed the top of my head, a gesture that made me feel warm from head to toe. He kissed my eyebrows and then my eyelids one at a time. Asina preened and purred while I held him tighter. He kissed the tip of my nose, then he hesitated before brushing his lips against mine. Lust zinged through me like a bolt of electricity. I wanted to be no, I needed more. I pushed closer to him, my lips chasing his in a sloppy kiss. He let me kiss him. The car had come to a halt in front of his home. He carried me out of the car and past the people in the house who had come outside to welcome us with fanfare. Women ogled his chest as he left his shirt in the car. Then we got into the room, and he dumped me on the bed. Cade Warren's existence had faded from my subconscious, but now that I remembered him, it was the perfect time to pay my prisoner a visit. You idiot, he screamed when I walked into the cell he had been thrown into. Who are you to hold an alpha of my status, dainty? His nose wrinkled and Perseus purred in satisfaction. You sighty. He went red in the face. His struggle to control himself tickled me. He counted to 10, breathing in through his nose and out his mouth. You bastard, he screamed, his veins popping as he charged at me, his wolf on the verge of breaking through the surface. I snagged the fist he launched at me. Let me go, you liar. I crushed his wrist for the fun of it. Sit down, let's talk. I shoved him away from me and he stumbled, almost falling. How could you, Feti? Sit. The amusement drained from me as I glared at the idiot who thought he could buy my mate from me. He collapsed into the only stool in the cell, and I leaned against a wall. Silver Moon will not let this go. I will never forgive you, he exclaimed with a heavy breath, his hand massaging his chest. Ah, the poor man. His chest must hurt from watching another man profit off his mistake. Look at me. He obeyed my command like a pup in my pack. Closing my eyes, I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. This power, Tharwi, this all-consuming power that had alphas bowing at my request. The smell of it was intoxicating. Cade Warren, you should not forget. Remember this day till your last. Hate me, Alpha Cade. Let hatred fill your veins, let it plague your dreams. I smiled at him, finding nothing funny about the situation. What are you saying? He scrunched up his face. I have stolen from you, haven't I? Deceived you like a little boy. Watching his face redden made me laugh. You should want revenge. I want revenge, he shouted, almost standing, but he had better sense. He knew who he was dealing with. He knew the alpha whose land he had trespassed on. Good, I smiled at the boy. I want you to come for me, Cade Warren. You shoo, he growled. Are you purposely aggravating me? He shouted, his loud voice stirring the resting demons inside me. Snap his neck, don't draw it out. Coat your fingers in his blood, the demons whispered. But they should know me better by now. I like to play. Aren't you aggravated already? I asked the little barking dog. I snatched Sihana from right underneath your nose. The side he shook his head. You signed a blood contract, and you went back on it, Fadi. Don't bore me with empty threats. It is impossible to break a blood contract, I reminded him. But you fa, his brows furrowed as the gears in his head turned. His eyes asked, how did this bastard find a way to get out of a blood contract? I don't know how you did it, but you dishonored the contract first, so don't expect Silver Moon to hold up her end. We will be processing an order soon. I'd like to see if you can dishonor a blood contract without first running mad. The thought of not complying with the terms he vouched for with his blood could drive him to insanity in mere weeks. While you try to figure it out, you can also plot your revenge against me. His eyes narrowed, but I simply smiled at him. I won't let you deceive me twice, Kahir Armani. It sounded like a vow. That's your business, Cade. I pushed off the wall. Come for me, Cade Warren. Take your pound of flesh from me. Be angry, fight for revenge. Let me have fun, tearing down Silver Moon. Cade. I paced the cell the warriors threw me into without respect for my dignity. The people here did not know who I was, and it showed. If they knew Sudi. If they knew Sudi, I deflated. The people in Alpha Blood Pack were untouchable. They could not be wronged without their Alpha going berserk. Still, I needed to do something about these people, especially their Alpha. How could he then know? How dare he undermine me? Like this. He has to pay. Flint was snarling, but I shoved my wolf's anger to the back of my mind. I didn't need his anger to fuel mine and make me act without thought. Kahir Armani could not be underestimated, and the way he flung a challenge at my face, I would be stupid to fall for his trap. He wanted me angry. He even encouraged it. Take your pound of flesh from me. He spoke with a sort of confidence and a gleam in his eyes that made me wary. Kahir Armani, you bastard. I needed to do something about the smug bastard, but common sense told me to tread with caution. What caution? Flint growled. He deceived us. He made a fool of us. Flint snarled, but I pushed him back again. The anger he felt tripled, the one I felt, but if I ever needed time to walk as if on a rope while watching my back, it was now. Even a fool would know that Kahir was up to something, and that thing involved me in my pack. He wanted me to do something stupid, act irrationally, and then he would come down on Silver Moon with all his might. I knew he wanted to play games with me, to scare me the way he did with Alpha Boston, but unlike the dead Alpha, I was not a fool. I wouldn't risk my pack for anything, not even a woman I love. Damn it. The stench of sex he carried on him made me want to hurl something at his head. That man. I looked up when I felt a presence. One of the burly men that threw me in here came to open the cell door with a glare on his face. Alpha Kahir has ordered your release. If you ever step feet on this pack land without prior notice to the Alpha, it would be considered a threat. Sitting Alphas weren't allowed to enter another's land without permission, but I threw caution to the wind by coming here. I understand. An involuntary sigh escaped my lips as I walked out of the cell. Why was all this happening to me at such a time? Was this my punishment for what I did to Sia? Did I catch bad karma? Tears stung my eyes, but I held my head high and walked out of the holding room. Sigh, again. You called a meeting. My father and Beta entered my office. The first thing I did when I got to my pack, rather than freshen up or rest, was to call for a meeting. We had to work fast if we were to avoid a disaster with Kahir Armani, who was obviously looking for trouble. Have a seat. I downed my glass of alcohol mixed with Wolf's Bane. I just returned from Alpha Blood Pack. We know that. My father's tone was dry and his body language closed off. Alpha Kahir Armani has mated with Sihana. He lost the hard look on his face. My father forgot to school his expression and his mouth fell open. He can't do that, Bada Marcus exclaimed with his eyes wide. He did, I growled at him, his sudden exclamation aggravating my headache. We signed a blood contract. It is impossible to go back on a blood contract, my father said in a drawl, as if he was educating me. Did he think I didn't know that blood contracts were binding whether the parties changed their minds or not? Bada Marcus, you will review the contract. If there is any loophole which he may have taken, we too will have to take that loophole because he's threatening me. Threatening you? Father shouted. I massaged my temple, wishing these men would be quiet. Their shouting made my head throb harder. My vision blurred for a split second, and the room danced around me. What is that tyrant up to? Father demanded. He was after me and my pack. For the crimes against my mate, someone has to pay. Those were his words, that was his plan. He was coming after Silver Moon. I could feel it in the way he looked at me in that cell. Riddle me this, I said to my father. If Kahir strikes today, what chances do we have of winning against him? The faces of the men crumbled one at a time. We had no chance in heaven or in hell. He would flatten us to the ground and it would not take him a week. His bloodlust made him unstoppable against Alpha Boston. But with a military the size of Alpha Blood, and with expertise in many battles, Kahir Armani was darn near untouchable. We need alliances, I told the men who looked shocked. Father, you are more familiar with the Alphas. I need you to find any and every one of them that have a grudge against Kahir and have the courage to go against him. Are you preparing to attack him? Marcus asked with a subdued air around him. I'd be stupid to. The room blinked out of focus for a second. He expects me to lash out at him for what he's done, so he is already prepared for that. Let him come to me if he wanted to fight. You are going to let him go with my daughter? Marcus asked with a snarl. I don't have the capacity to fight Kahir, and as for your daughter, served my chair so that I was totally facing him. You could have done something to make her stay. If you begged her to stay, she may have considered it because she loved you. The expression on his face disgusted me. Beta Marcus had become a shadow of himself in just a few days. One could tell he wasn't sleeping, and he had also become quieter. The once fearsome Beta of Silver Moon Pack had depreciated in less than a week. Why is this my fault? He snapped at me. I used to be afraid of this man at one point in my life. He carried himself with the authority of an alpha. He had a strong presence, and when he glared at a person, they felt like opening up the ground to hide. I'm not saying it's your fault. We all treated Sia as a second-class human, and now she was gone forever, to become the Luna of a pack from which we could not snatch her. Damn you, Alpha Kahir. We have to do something. He can't make a fool of us like this and get away with it. This will set a precedence for your rule, Cade. People would begin to undermine you if you let this go without making a stand. My father's advice would be solid if he was advising me to go against another alpha than Kahir. I'm not taking advice from a man that put me in this position in the first place. Resentment still rang in my heart against my father. If only he did not force me to believe any female outside of an alpha was undeserving of being my Luna. Caden, so get out of my office, both of you. I'm expecting a report on your individual tasks by Monday. But, out, Flint growled at them, and they stormed out of my office, leaving behind a stench of anger. I went back to drinking. This mess sued. How could I get out of it? Would I find another mate now that my connection with Sia was completely broken? Flint whimpered at that thought. I don't want anyone else, my wolf whimpered. I want Sihana Asina. We can never have her, I growled in anger, throwing a bottle against a wall. Everything is ruined. We lost her. The computer on my desk crashed to the floor as I overturned the desk in a single flip. Fagan Teden. I looked up from my haze of red to see Felicity and my mother standing in the doorway with frightened expressions. You're the last people I want to see. I glared at them, hoping they would feel the truth in my words from my glare. Cade, we are your family. Please don't shut us out. Felicity cried out, her eyes glistening. Let us help Thuvi. Felicity, if you aren't trying to get your head bashed open, you better shut up, Flint growled at her as if she was an enemy. And you four, I looked at my mother. She was pretty and petite, looking to be Felicity's sister instead of her mother. She took advantage of her youthfulness to lure in young men to sleep with. Did she want to act as a mother now, this same woman who abandoned her family to ride the dicks of men her son's age? Two of you, don't ever approach me again. Cade, Felicity screamed with tears on her face. Let us help you. I don't like Thurber, you don't look good. Please, let us help you. Except you are able to bring Sia to my side. You are useless to me. I can try. Tears streamed down my sister's face. I understood they were worried about my sudden quarrel with Dad and my drinking, but her words made me laugh. You can try. I won't stop you. Let me see how they could give me another man's mate. I looked up at the ceiling in my room with a pillow clutched to my chest. My body tingled in a dozen different places, and if I got up too fast, sharp pain in my back and legs made me sit back down. Kahir had bent me over in ways I did not think I was flexible enough to get into, and then he chased me out of his room. That isn't how it happened, though. Asina's quiet voice echoed in my head, but I said nothing in response to her. It may not have happened exactly like that, but that was how I felt. How could he send me away to my room after we engaged in the most intimate of acts? Have you considered he may have done it for our benefit? Isn't it better to wear our clothes rather than Sundi? Asina trailed off, seeing that her excuse for her mate did not make perfect sense. I know I went too far wearing his clothes without first asking him, but he didn't have to tell me to go to my room for it. Since I came to his pack, I always slept in his room. Although he never shared the bed with me after the night we mated, he never told me outright to get out. My bedroom door creaked open, and I turned in alarm. It was almost midnight, so who would enter my room at this time? Oh, it is you. I turned my face away from him, unable to bear to look in his face after he so coldly dismissed me earlier today. Were you expecting anyone else? His calm voice had a tinge of something dangerous in it that had me shivering in response. Wolves were predators, but we still recognized the presence of higher predators, and in every room Kahir stepped into, he tipped the scale of power as he became the highest predator in the room to be the fastest hunter. I wasn't. What do you want? My back faced him as I held my pillow tighter. His presence in the room made me uncomfortable and stared. Look at me. I heard something in his tone that had me turning to face him in a split second. It was not the command of an Alpha 2. No, it was more subtle and more dangerous than I'd ever heard. What is it? I asked him, my skin prickling underneath his gaze. Don't disrespect me. This time, the words were a command that had me nodding. Okay, I answered in what must have been a wretched tone. I jumped from a frying pan to a burning fire with my eyes wide open. I had no one to blame for my present misfortune. You didn't have dinner. His weight sank the side of the bed as he sat. I am not hungry, I muttered. A long silence ensued after that. His eyes burnt a hole into my skin while I stared at the ceiling without seeing. What is this mood you are in? His words broke the quiet in the room. I don't know what you mean, I answered on a whim. This side B mood. I didn't look at him, but I imagined his face wrinkled as he spoke. You're in a funny mood. I was feeling less than funny at that point. Can I ask you a question? I asked him. His eyes burnt into the side of my face, but I did not have the courage to look into the storm in his eyes. I may not answer. Frustration made me want to kick the sheets off me and storm out. How could a man be this impossible? Okay. I forced myself to take a calm breath, and then I closed my eyes. What is the question? He asked me. Forget it. I turned. An icy hand on my shoulder stopped me mid-turn. I opened my eyes and came face to face with the red of an alpha. Don't turn your back against me, Sihana Asina. His words were growled out through clenched teeth and his grip on my shoulder started to hurt. I am just Stibby. I am just trying to sleep. Asina cowered at the expression on his face. You will sleep after you tell me why you are acting like this, he growled at me. It's because you treat me like shit, I exploded, and then turned as white as a sheet of paper. I didn't mean to yell. I winced as a cloud darkened his face and his lips pursed. His hand fell from my shoulder and his expression cleared in the blink of an eye. In a split second, I went from staring at a man on the verge of an explosion to staring at a man with a stoic and unreadable expression. I treat you like shit. You are in the Alpha Castle as her mistress. For you, I organized the best Luna ceremony any Luna has ever had, and a few hours ago, I pleasured you as no man can ever pleasure you in this life, but I treat you like shit. He said everything as if he was reading off a list of all the good things he had done for me, while I had the audacity to be ungrateful. It's not Saidi. I felt a weight closing down on my chest that made it hard to breathe. Asina pushed me to explain things to him, to show him I was not ungrateful, but the words would not come out past a bubble of words, strung together without meaning. It's not Saidi. I started again, but his expression darkened again. It's not what? He demanded, and I cowered. You're costing me too much and you don't even know it. I pursed my lips at his words. What did I cost him? I never asked for him to buy me clothes. He did all that of his own accord without even asking me. The Luna ceremony, which he claimed was the best ceremony in the world, was to suit his taste, not mine. He had the money to spend and he spent it on things I never asked for. I cost him a lot, but wearing his shirt was where he drew the line. Good night. He stood from the bed and walked out of the room without a backwards glance, but I called out to him in a frantic voice. Wait, he paused with his hand on the doorknob. What did you want in the first place? Why had he entered my room so late at night after kicking me out of his? Nothing important. With that, he was out of my room, leaving me to toss and turn for the rest of the night, wondering if I'd been too harsh to accuse him of treating me like shit. It was obvious that I offended him with that allegation. Laura's face flashed into my head, making me chew on my nails. She said it would be hard but worth it in the end, but I wasn't seeing it. I wanted her to be right, Sivi, for my sake. I wanted her to be right, but I had no faith in her words. The image of Kahir's blank face assailed me throughout the night. The more I thought about it, the more my mind painted disappointment over his blank face until I felt like I had to apologize to him. Somehow, I felt like my words hurt him even if he did not show it. The part of myself that had vowed to live for myself and myself alone, never others, screamed at me to do the opposite. He never apologized to me despite everything he did to me from our first meeting. Why should I apologize to a man who never apologized to me? You know what he did wrong, but does he? Asina asked me, but I snorted. How could he not know that it was wrong to sell someone off in their presence? How could he not know that calling all those people to photograph me when I felt vulnerable was wrong? How could he not know that sending me out of his room for something as simple as wearing his shirt was wrong? But he said we could keep the shirt. He said nothing about taking it off, Asina said with indignation ringing in her tone. If you ask me, I would say he loved seeing us in his shirt so much that it stunned him. It would be a plausible excuse if he did not tell me to leave right after. This could all just be a misunderstanding. In Silver Moon, I felt everything was a misunderstanding. It took me a long time to accept that the people hated me, and no matter what I did, they would never see me in a different light. With every insult, every beating, every slur, I told myself there had been a misunderstanding, that if they got to know me, they would see the truth and apologize. But it was just a stupid and desperate dream. Kahir isn't like anyone in Silver Moon, Asina said, but I didn't want to agree. He had the potential and the power to hurt me more than anyone else ever had. We have to try, Sia. Please, don't hate our mate. We have to give him a chance. I slept off with Asina's words ringing in my head. The next morning, I woke up and got dressed to go to the pack house. As the Luna, I had to get familiar with my people and my work. If I had known what that morning had in stock for me, I would not have gotten out of bed. It was Avalon. Avalon Carson, my worst nightmare. Kahir. You treat me like shit. Those words resonated in my head as I drove to my office at midnight. What the fuck did she mean by I was treating her like shit? Considering I never wanted a mate, I felt I was doing good enough with one. I never wanted a mate, but I did not want any woman in my life to feel as if they were being mistreated. Trouble in paradise. Aristo walked into my office behind me. Don't bother me. I have to work. I fell into my seat and powered on my computer while my beta snickered from opposite me. Why are you working when you can be balls deep in your Luna? Aristo. I raised my head from my computer screen. Every day he spoke about my woman and sex in such a casual way that it irked my wolf. My beta may be a man ruled by his dick 90% of the time, but he was smart enough the other 10% of the time to know better than to continue discussing my mate as if she was a common woman and not his Luna. Hey, don't eat me. I am only 4, he laughed, raising his hand in the air in surrender. You may be my beta and best friend, but take this as your last warning. The next time you talk about Sihana in such a crass way, I will rip you to shreds. Beta or not, never forget your place. I am sorry, he hung his head, but this display was familiar. I was trying to lighten the mood, not insult your Luna. Whatever your motive is, think about your head before you speak. You are too replaceable to crack such expensive jokes. Ouch, what a way to hurt a man's feelings. He rubbed a fist over his chest, but that gesture too was familiar. I understand. He gave me a beaming smile that did not reach his eyes. Why are you still here? I asked him, keying in the password to my computer. Is there a girl waiting at your office right now? I asked him, and he laughed. There's no girl in my office, but I wish there was. He sighed, scrubbing a hand down his face. His skin looked dry and his eyes were heavy. His cheery expression was forced with a wry smile on his face that made him look older. I saw you drive in through my window, so I decided to bug you. There's a ton of work that needs completing. That's why I am staying this late in the office. If you have a ton of work to complete, don't waste time in my office. Get out. My work rate had slowed since I met Sihana, so I too had a backlog of work that piled with each second that passed. That woman distracted me in the most unusual ways. One minute I would be working on a project, and the next, my mind would be appraising an image of her in my head. But I treated her like shit. Nah, let's have a conversation. You have become more stuck up since you found your mate. Tell me what's happening. She says, I treat her like shit. The words burst from my mouth without my consent. They were ridiculous in my ears, so I needed someone else to make sense of them for me. That's because you treat her like shit. My eyes narrowed at Aristo's flippant words. Have you forgotten how you pretended to sell her off? I claimed her already. She must know by now that was only a ruse. How would she know if you never told her? He challenged. She is not a fool. She can piece things together for herself, I answered. The men I sent to raid Silver Moon Pack and retrieve my mate were given a simple instruction. They were to make sure not to force her hand in coming here. If she did not want to be my Luna, I had no plans of forcing her. Before she got here, she knew the destination. She came here, so she must have pieced things together. You need the pieces to put them together, Kahir. Amusement rang in Aristo's voice. Not only did that happen, But you also had that Luna ceremony, and I warned you not to. She was overwhelmed that day by all those reporters. It was very obvious on her face, so I know you never informed her. The poor girl looked like she would collapse from all that attention. The Luna ceremony. Did that ceremony already cause problems for us? I hosted such a grand ceremony because I thought she would like it, and I wanted all of my enemies to know her Thaidi, to know her name and her face. I did it to show them that she was under my protection as I completely acknowledged her as my mate. Did she not see that? Kahir, she is more or less a stranger to you. If you don't talk to her, she may never understand your motives and may come to see it as if you're purposely trying to make her uncomfortable. She could not think that. I'd made sure the pack was comfortable for her in the best ways. The rest of us have known you for a long time, so your methods are familiar, but to her, you are a strange and powerful man. Don't forget that the world is terrified of you. You can be intimidating just by breathing, and I can bet she is afraid of you. She should be afraid of me, Aristo face-palmed. Fear is a useful tool, Aristo, you need to understand that. With fear, I could guarantee complete cooperation without having to make a single threat. It made ruling easier for me. Yeah, fear is a useful tool, but have you forgotten that she used to be bullied in her former pack? My eyes narrowed again. I crossed my arms and leaned back in my seat. Is there any update from Cade? I asked. How could I forget those idiots? Bullied my mate. They were an insignificant pack to me, but now they were at the top of my hit list. Silver Moon is quiet for now, but I got a message from Felicity, Cade's sister. She wants to come here. My lips stretched in a grin that took some of the burdens off my chest. Your smile is scary. Stop, Aristo shivered. She is welcome here whenever she likes, I said with a smile, ignoring Aristo's shiver. Alpha Cade was not a stupid man. I knew he would not attack me because I encouraged him to. Men like Alpha Boston would respond to that challenge the way I wanted them to. But Cade would tread with caution and try to attack me in a way he thought would surprise me. Was his sister a part of this plan? Cade and Felicity, from what I remembered, had a good relationship. He did not seem like the kind of person who would bring his little sister into his war, so was she coming here of her own accord? On the other hand, the relationship between him and his sister had a small hole in it now, so he could be throwing caution to the wind to use her. No, she would be too obvious as a spy on me. I think she wants to come here to ride my cock. That girl has it hot for me, so don't think it has anything to do with your issue with her brother. Aristo warned he may be right, but he was never completely right. No matter. I stretched out the kinks in my neck. Working Sihana to countless orgasms had been an intense workout for me, one that my body was yet to recover from. If she is here to ride your cock or not, make sure she comes. I want her here for as long as possible, or at least until I am ready to wipe Silver Moon off the planet. What are you planning? Aristo asked. You know me better than most. I am planning to destroy Silver Moon. The more of her people I have under my claws, the better my plan can proceed. If you say so. He got out his phone and typed a rapid text to his butt buddy. She should be here by tomorrow. She's quite excited, but who can blame her? He winked at me as he pocketed his phone. One taste of this man and all the ladies go gaga. Get out of my office. The idiot laughed. Look, Kahir, you are my best friend. His expression turned serious. I want you to be happy, and this is your best shot at happiness. You don't need Sihana to be scared of you. They use fear to control her in her former pack, so if you try to do that with her here, she may end up hating you. That's the last thing you want, my man. Hating me. Shit. Why did the thought make Perseus bleed? With anguish. My first reaction when I saw Avalon was to rush and hide. I'd forgotten she was in this pack with her family, as punishment for what she did to me. Sihana, she sneered my name while she looked at me. Despite the bucket and mop she carried with her, Avalon maintained a dignified air with her fiery red hair pulled up in a slick bun. Avalon, how are you? I asked, tucking a hair strand behind my ear. I squashed the urge to run by reminding myself of my new station. I was the Luna of this pack, Thibby, her Luna. She could not hurt me anymore. I won't give her the chance to hurt me. Why do you care? She sneered again. If we were still in Silver Moon Pack, her hand would have lashed out faster than I could blink as she dealt me a painful blow, but this time, all she could do was glare at me and sneer. Her green eyes were alight with hatred that spread goosebumps all over my skin. As the Luna Fui, as the Luna, it's my duty to care about every member of Alpha Blood Pack. I answered her, raising my chin. Yes, she was a member of Alpha Blood Pack now, and I was her Luna. She could not hurt me anymore. I tried to tell that to my racing heart, but it did not calm. Ava, where are you? Two girls came bursting in through a door. The girls, who could have been copies of each other, skidded to a halt when they saw me. They looked from Avalon to me, and I watched a familiar expression turn their faces sour. Is this her? One girl asked Avalon, giving me a once-over with eyes filled with disgust. Who else? She's the new Luna, remember? The other girl replied to her sister, also giving me a look filled with disgust. What the fuck is wrong with these bitches? How dare they ignore us? Asina growled at the blatant disrespect with which the girls treated me. So much for coming to the pack house to get acquainted with my people. I thought she'd be pretty at least, one twin said, and the three girls giggled. You can't be pretty and be a bitch, really, the other twin added. Excuse me? I felt annoyance clog my throat as the girls insulted me. Sorry, are you lost? One twin asked me with a sugary smile that did not reach her eyes. Ava, you'd make a much better Luna. Truthfully, you're a strong alpha female and southern. What bullshit are you both sprouting? I asked the girls who were giggling and fawning over Avalon. Avalon was pretty, and she carried herself with confidence. It wasn't hard for her to attract people to herself, so I wasn't surprised she already made friends and formed a clique here. But I never expected that her clique would insult me right in my presence despite knowing who I was. Oh please, Avalon already told us about you. You're a wicked and conniving woman. Alpha blood deserves better. The women lost all pretext of niceness. They dropped their saccharine sweet smiles and wore glares as they stood by Avalon's side as if they were her protectors. Leave her be. You don't want to cause any trouble with her, Avalon said in a voice false enough to win an award. This girl, even Alpha Warren, wasn't this good at pretending. You are too nice, Ava. You deserve justice for what this witch did to you, one girl said, as she crossed her arms, looking like she wanted to breathe fire to burn me for harming her little duckling. Did you just call me a witch? I asked her. Avalon has done a good job of brainwashing these ones. Goddess only knew how many more she had told such lies against me. I had to do something about this. I couldn't have all these people hating me for something. I shut down those thoughts as fast as they came. No, never again. I already vowed to live for myself without caring what others had to say about me. If these girls hated me, then that was their business. I was not a bad person. Never would I go out of my way to hurt someone, and I had to teach myself to be comfortable with my stance. If others chose to lie and slander my name, so be it. Their words should not continue to hold so much weight to me. Yes, I called you a witch. The girl looked at me with challenge shining in her eyes. What are you going to do about it? From her scent, I could tell she was a beta, and from my scent, she knew I was the Luna, but she disrespected me. I didn't care about making people love me. That was a bondage I needed to break myself free of. But in this pack, I would not allow people to disrespect me. My life was tied here forever, and no one wanted to be disrespected forever. Never mind that whatever she has told you may be a lie, but if she told you I am a witch, should you be testing me? I took a step towards her and she mirrored my action, her eyes blazing with a challenge. What can you do? Her twin also came to flank her side. If you forget everything, don't forget I am your Luna. I stepped closer to them, crossing my arms. I wished I could replicate Kahir's intimidating stance, but I did not have the power or the aura to match it. If you cannot respect me, there may be no room for you in this pack. Do you think you can kick us out of our home? You're the one who doesn't belong here, and once Kahir realizes, you'll be out, one girl said. Yes, I can kick you out, not just you, but I will be sure to include your entire family, I said in a quiet tone that made me feel like a fraud. Ask Avalon. She and her family will serve Alpha blood till their third generation. If you want to be the bearer of misfortune for your family, get on my bad side and watch my witchcraft ruin your life. The girls went silent, brewing with anger. You overestimate your power. Do I? I smiled, feeling giddy for standing up for myself for the first time. Do you want to test your theory? You want to fuck around? I held back a grin as their face reddened more and more from anger they could not control. You are nobody. The twins screamed at the same time. That's your Luna you're talking to. Aristo appeared beside me with rage in his tone. Beta Aristo, the girl straightened in surprise at his sudden appearance. How long have you been 20? They looked from me to him with surprise on their faces. Long enough for me to listen to you insult Alpha Kahir's mate, your Luna. His eyes blazed as he looked down at the girls. She see, Isla. Girl stuttered, and you saw he turned his glare on Avalon, who met it with a glare of hers. Have you forgotten why you are here? I am here because of that bitch, she exclaimed. I am to be the Luna of Silver Moon, and you all will regret ever treating me in such a demeaning manner. Her shoulders were stiff, and her glare at Aristo unrelenting. Oh, I know your type. Aristo's anger evaporated to be replaced by a carefree smile. You don't bend over. You need to be broken, crushed to pieces. Yes, I won't bend over. She pushed her chin into the air. Very well, Avalon, he beamed down at her, as if she just said something too interesting to ignore. You're an alpha blood pack now, and lucky for you. Our alpha is a bloodthirsty fiend. Since you can't bend over, I am sure he will have the pleasure of breaking you. It'll be more fun than me making you learn your place. He took my hand and pulled me away from the girls. Why are you here? He asked as he walked me out of the room. What do you mean, why am I here? Is the pack house prohibited for me? No, but after yesterday, you should be resting. Remembering yesterday made my skin heat in a dark blush. Kahir was Sivani. I didn't know lovemaking could be so intense. But was he the type of man to share intimate details with all his friends? Just that thought made me self-conscious enough to rub my arm. I'm talking about the Luna ceremony, not whatever dirty thing your mind has gone to, he exclaimed in a teasing tone. Toy, what? My eyes widened, and I felt I could burst from the embarrassment flooding me. Gosh, Kahir already corrupted you. He grabbed my bicep to steady himself as he bent over laughing, but his laughter died when he saw the dark figure looming a few feet away. What 2D are you two doing together? I snatched my arm from Aristo's when I saw Kahir's glare. The look in Kahir's eyes had Aristo jumping away while I swallowed a thick lump as goosebumps rose on my skin. Now that I think about it, I have surti. I have work to do. See you later. Aristo broke into a jog as he escaped the fire blazing around his alpha. Good morning, I swallowed, feeling sweat break out on my forehead from the heat of the anger in his eyes. I felt the waves of his anger crash into me, and I knew I had to dispel the rage building around him. But after what happened the other night, I didn't know how to face him. How are you? He didn't look very good. Despite the anger around him, his expression remained impassive, but the dark circles around his eyes worried my wolf. He looked like he had not slept a wink the previous night. I noticed then that he was still wearing the clothes from yesterday. Did you sleep in the office? I asked in alarm, when he still did not say anything to me, choosing to stare at me with the anger rolling off him. What were you doing with Aristo? He asked a question of his rather than respond to mine. He came to my aid when some girls were harassing me, I answered, feeling wariness take over me. I crossed my arm and stepped back while watching him. He didn't make a move, but his anger grew and surrounded the place, almost suffocating me. Harassing you, he spoke as if testing the words on his tongue, then his brows twitched. I saw an unfamiliar expression flit through his eyes before he scowled. Who dares to harass my Luna? The words spilling from his lips were not his. I recognized the voice of his wolf because of the animalistic growls that accompanied his words, and the way his eyes shifted to a deep red color, and an expression of rage overtook his features. Kahir swallowed at the way he looked at me. This man was dangerous, and I never went a second in his presence without being reminded of how much power he wielded and how much danger that translated to. When he took purposeful steps toward me, I fought to maintain my stance, to not run away, because I knew it was foolish to run from a predator. He stopped in front of me and forced my chin upwards, forcing me to look into his angry red eyes. I need names. I swallowed at the harsh tone. Wolves were possessive of things they considered theirs, and alphas were the worst of the lot Sudi. The more power an alpha wielded, the worse their possessiveness. But Kahir 3T, I never experienced anything like this. Granted, no one had ever been possessive of me, but I never expected it to be like this. I didn't think a few snarled words could knock the breath out of me and make me shiver to my bones. But here we are. I don't tuena. A low growl in his throat warned me against lying. The twins, whatever their names were, would owe me big time for this. Threatening them was all a bluff. I did not come here to put Kahir against his people, which would be what telling him about them would achieve. Don't be mad. I raised a shaky hand to cup his jaw while fearing for my life. Those girls were in my debt. I took care of it already. Are you sire sure? The wolf snarling before me narrowed its eyes, but I already felt the tension slipping away. I am sure Thufartse Perseus. I swallowed as I mentioned that name. How would he react to Suti? My eyes widened to twice their size as the wolf nuzzled into my palm, holding my arm in place and rubbing his cheek against my open hand like a needy cat. The simple act made my heart pound even harder. What the hell was happening? He jerked away from me as if burned when I thought that. And for a second, I feared I had exclaimed that out loud. What did you do to the mutt? Kahir snatched both of my hands and held them to his face, scrutinizing them. The man was back with his blank expression, an aura of danger cloaking him. I didn't do anything. I tugged my hands from his grip, but they turned firm, dark eyes raised to look at me. Kahir's eyes bore into mine, giving me the impression of being stripped naked. It felt as if he could see into the deepest part of my soul, and it terrified me knowing I wouldn't know what he would see there. A sharp cry from a child broke his eyes from biting into me. He let go of my hand and started in the direction of the piercing scream, and I followed behind him. I'd come here to see how the people in this pack lived, and I would do that now. The cause of the loud wail was apparent when we got close to the entrance of the house. Avalon looked bored to see the child crying, while the mother rushed towards her son. What happened here? I heard Kahir demand in a voice that made Avalon stand upright. She was the only adult in the room with the child, and from the look of it, she had not tried to console the screaming boy whose leg was bent at a weird angle. I told him not to run on wet floors, but he insisted, she said with no care in the world. I reached the boy at the same time as his mother, almost losing my footing once as I walked on the wet floor. Micah, I told you not to run about. The woman scolded her son, white as paper. Mum Soren, the boy whimpered, holding his leg. Don't touch it. The woman looked around, ready to move him, but I stopped her. Wait a minute. She raised her head as I spoke, as if only then realizing that there was someone else in the room other than her son. Luna. When she raised her head, I saw the tears gathering in her eyes, but she still managed a weak smile. Let me do something. I took a deep breath and put my hand on the boy's leg. In an instant, I felt the familiar light warming from my heart and spreading a tingle through my body before my hands lit up. Mummy Thaifer, the boy cried, clutching at his mother. What is she doing? Fear and pain resonated in his voice as I closed my eyes. I didn't have mastery over my power yet, but I wanted to be absolutely certain that this time I did not use more mana than necessary to help this child. He was already in enough pain. I did not want to put him in anymore. The tingling sensation rushed through me and almost rushed out, but I gritted my teeth, holding it at bay. I could feel the bones in his legs, and if I concentrated hard enough, I could visualize the injury on his leg. Slowly, with gritted teeth, I let out the healing aura, allowing it to seep out of my palms like a trickling tap. It was a lot of work, but not impossible when I paid attention and took my time, forcing myself to be careful with the child. When the last bit of his torn flesh and shifted bone righted itself, I allowed myself to open my eyes as I took my hands off the child. 2 more people entered the room while I healed the boy. Everyone in the room had their eyes on me, Sudi gawking at me. I smiled, feeling weird as I stood. None of the people here had seen me heal anyone before, and with the way they looked at me, I felt like an alien who just dropped in their midst. I feel all good now. The child broke the spell of silence in the room. He flew to his feet with his bloody shorts and launched himself at me. Micah, his mother, choked, while he wrapped his hands around my knees. Thank you, lady, the child shouted, and I awkwardly patted his head. Thank you, Luna, his mother said, standing from her crouching position. Micah is a bit careless and likes to run about. I am sorry for the inconvenience. It's no problem, I said with an even more awkward smile. Did it hurt when I healed you? I asked the child, who shook his head vigorously. No, not at all. He was jumping when he spoke. It felt 2D. It felt like cool mint and 2D and Suvi. I really loved it. It was calming. He clutched his mother's hand and pulled at it. Mum, you need to have felt it. He has a lot of energy, I commented at the child bouncing about. Tell me about it. The woman smiled down at her son. I am Graceland, but please call me Grace. And as you must have figured, this is my son, Micah. Nice to meet you, Micah shouted. Where did you learn to heal people? It's a gift from the goddess, I told him. It's the goddess kiss. Oh, Swido, Foid, how can I get it? Are there other gifts? How can I get it? I want it too, Fido. No, I want Fire Authority. He talked a lot. He was a ball of energy I didn't know how to keep up with. Nice to meet you, Luna. Please excuse us. The woman lifted her son and carted him away while he struggled. I walked back to Kahir, who already had his eyes on me with Aristo at his side. You were right, Aristo said. There can be no hiding it. This is Sebastian. He will be responsible for your security from now on. Kahir introduced me to a tall and lean, muscular man. He had close-cropped sandy brown hair, and he looked like he had never and would never smile a day in his life. The stoic expression on his face while he was introduced made me feel as if he didn't like me, as if he thought guarding me would be a waste of his time. The words he spoke next made me realize I was right. With all due respect, Alpha, I am the head of your guards. It is my duty to protect you and only you. He turned away from me as if I wasn't anything. I don't need your protection, Kahir said to him without paying much attention. He seemed to be waiting for something, Tundi or someone. She is my Luna, protect her with your life. With those words, he dismissed Sebastian. Yes, Alpha, He left Kahir's office with that, giving me one last intense look before he left. Sebastian is the best man to protect you, Kahir informed me after the guard left. That way, I will be sure you are not getting harassed by anyone anywhere. He gave me a pointed look that had me nodding without looking at him. He is scary, I admitted. The man looked strong and hardened, which wasn't unusual for someone closely attached to Kahir, but the feeling I got from him was off. Besides, the issue earlier was just petty talk amongst women. Sebastian is efficient, that's all that matters. As for how he looks, you need not concern yourself with that. He will first die, then allow anything happen to you. I didn't think Sebastian saw me as someone worth dedicating himself to, but I said nothing, only nodding. Maybe one day, I would be confident enough to tell Kahir my mind without fear of him lashing out at me. I sat in his office watching him, having nothing else to do. He interrupted my plan to see around the pack, bringing me to his large office to just any look. He checked his watch for the 100th time then, and I looked at the clock. It was almost 11, so he may be expecting visits soon. You're busy. I should go around the pack house myself, I said when he tapped his fingers against the large desk. Are you hungry? He asked all of a sudden. I paused for a second to make sure I hadn't heard him wrong before I shook my head. No, I had breakfast before coming. There was a short pause that Asina pushed me to fill, so I continued. Are you hungry? I asked. Yes, he answered. Then he stood, shoving his hands into his pocket. Let's go. He was striding out the door as I scrambled to my feet. Where are we going? I asked when I managed to catch up with him. He was acting weird, 2D different somehow, but I could not place my hands on what was happening with him. To eat, he declared, turning to me for a second. But I just told him I already ate. We got out of the pack house and into his car, and then we were off. He stared out the window without a word to me. His mood was starting to get me worried and irritated at the same time. I didn't want to be worried, darn it. Is anything the matter? I asked when the silence in the car became suffocating. What do you think of Aristo? He asked, his quiet voice getting even lower. A frown creased his brows for a split second, but I must have imagined it because he looked as unruffled and unimpressionable as ever. Aristo, I paused to get the right words, afraid of saying the wrong thing, when he was in a strange mood. Did this have anything to do with earlier today when he saw his beta clutching my bicep as he laughed? He was calm now, so he should be clear, minded enough to know that that meant nothing. He is a nice man, I replied, watching his expression. Nothing changed on his face, but the air around him shifted and became even more ominous. That's all I think of him, I concluded. He gazed at me with eyes that bore into my soul, striping me of layers of clothes and skin and seeming to read my mind. A nice man, he muttered to himself. His expression darkened, and I held my breath. What was it this time? With his volatile temper, Kahir may soon give me a heart attack. Do you like him? Even without the scowl on his face, the double-edged question would have put me on guard already. Why? Why are you asking me this? I deflected, but his gaze did not move from my face. I'm not sure why you're asking me this. I barely know him, but he seems like a good person. He is your beta, and I feared you would not choose an unlikable person to be your beta, would you? He said nothing after that, keeping his eyes on me for much longer. I forced myself not to look away until he did. You're smart, he muttered as the car pulled to a halt in front of a restaurant. I got out after him and he linked our fingers. My breath hitched at that small gesture. It was Saidi. It was not the first time he linked our fingers together, but for some reason, when he did it this time, my heart beat faster. The minute we entered the restaurant, I felt my anxiety kick back up. I toyed with the pendant resting on my collarbone as we took a seat in the obviously mega super expensive restaurant. There were a few other people around us, and they were dressed in suits and expensive dresses. I was dressed in a plain sundress with sneakers. You should have told me, you fighty. I would have worn something better, I whispered, looking at the people around me. A lot of the people here looked like businessmen and women who came out for brunch, while I looked like 40 nobody. What's wrong with what you're wearing? He asked, eyeing my dress. I almost asked him if he did not have eyes to see, but a man and woman, both dressed in crisp black suits, walked up to the table with huge smiles on their faces. Alpha, Luna, they exclaimed. It is a pleasure to meet you here, the man said. I faked a weak smile. Who are you? Kahir asked, turning to face them. I am Beta Morris, and this is my secretary, you remember. We worked together just last month. The man beamed at us, but his smile unnerved me. The look in his eyes sifty. I shivered when his smile fell on me. I felt tiffy nothing but absolute hatred from him when his smile fell on me. If I had a scar, it would hurt just from a look from him. Why are you interrupting my meal? Kahir asked the man who lost his smile in a second. For Alpha 2, he tried to force the smile, but it wasn't easy. We came to pay our respects, sorry for interrupting. Let's go, Anna. He motioned to his assistant, who scurried after him. What is wrong with what you're wearing? He asked again after they left. Thoughts of being underdressed flew out of my mind after that encounter. I'd met a number of people who were good pretenders, like Alpha Warren for one, but even he could not smile so broadly with someone he hated. That man loathes your existence. He is one of many, Kahir snorted. Men like him are the reason you should not be coming out like you did today. Twide, what? I only came to the pack house, I informed him. I was going to familiarize myself with the pack since I'm the Luna and Fubby. He shook his head, cutting me off. You don't need to do any of that. Alpha blood has worked just fine without a Luna. I blinked at him, but he wasn't even looking at me. That titty, that hurt worse than any blow I had ever been dealt. Why Tivy want to make me feel irrelevant? They'd worked fine without a Luna, so I was civvy what? There was no need for me then. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I blinked them away, staring at a spot behind him. Okay, I answered in a bland voice. If that is what you want. It is, he replied. I can't think of anything you would need to do, but if you must leave the Alpha Castle, make sure Sebastian is with you if I am not there. I nodded as he spoke. Alpha blood may be mine, but there are still dissenters. I don't need anything. He was still speaking, but I had stopped listening all that. I heard was a ringing in my ears and I felt a prickling in my chest.